Om Shanti. Welcome to today's episode of Masters of Change. To change is natural. To be afraid of change is also natural. But what makes us human is that we do it anyway. But we need to set the right kind of perspective when we are going through the process of change. And to help us set that perspective, today we have with us Sister Anne from France. Welcome, sister.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Fine. Very happy to be here.
Same with us. It is our pleasure to have you here. And why don't you start with telling us something about your journey, how it all started?
It all started in when I was a student in medical studies. It was very intense studies, and I was so stressed.
Yeah, sure.
So I thought to myself, you should do something to relax
Right.
And so a friend of me said, you should go to a place, a center. They are very young and they're very nice. It's open. You'll be free. So go there.
Where?
You will like. It was Brahma Kumaris Center. It was
someone suggested you that?
Yes, okay. Yes. And it was a Hatha yogi person, but she went often there to meditate.
Oh, nice.
So I started the courses, but I didn't know what was happening. And in the same time, since I was young, I had deep, intense search on spirituality, psychology, philosophy, and I always was attracted to go to Asia and India. I always asked myself, why I'm not born there? You know, it have a very different way of being, and I felt I was an old soul. I cannot explain that to you, right. But I felt old. I was young, but I felt like I had many lives before that. When something was calling me. Yeah. So I started to read Buddhism, and I started a therapy because I was not that happy.
Yeah.
So
in search of happiness.
Yeah. So I say maybe I will talk to a doctor.
Yeah.
So and the magic is that this psychiatrist, is that right?
Yeah, correct.
After a few months, we had many nice conversations, about my parents, my past. But at one time, he said to me, "I think it's you have a spiritual crisis."
Spiritual crisis.
Yeah, like of existential questions. And he said to me, you should meditate. And I learned after he was vegetarian. At that time in France, it's very rare. And he was very open. And I said to him, but how I can meditate? Because he said, no, you just start with just a candle and you start, having peaceful thoughts. And then a few months after, I met Brahma Kumaris Center, and I started this path. And when I listened to the courses, many questions I had were answered. So it was like, I found something that fulfilled me deeply.
Right.
Many questions I had, it seems to me so clear. I said, wow.
Just with the course, many questions were answered.
Yes, the soul in a reincarnation, that what I liked is I came from a high level of consciousness, and slowly I lost this energy.
Right.
And I felt I live in India, somewhere. I remember the first time I saw the picture of Lakshmi and Narayan. It was magic.
Yeah? Where did you see that?
Well, the person who gave me the courses, she showed me the tree.
Okay.
No, not the tree, the cycle.
Okay.
And I could see the image of golden age with.
Right.
I was very pulled by that golden age, and slowly my whole life changed. But there's a part of me that was resisting because I didn't really thought to change that much.
Right. Correct. And it was all happening so fast.
Yes, exactly.
It must have been scary in the beginning, going through that change. How did you handle that change, and how did you accept that change inside of you?
There was two different realities in me. One, I had many questions. And also in France, spiritual path like Vajra Yoga are not really accepted, you know.
Right.
I said to myself, I am in a sect or what, you know, what's going on? And many questions about this yogi life and things like this. That's not what I have projected in my life.
Right.
And another part of me that said to me, that's your right path, you know, and that felt this connection with another dimension, that it was so strong that I felt, wow, it's what I want, you know. And I had also the feeling that that was the only way for me to be liberated from my suffering. That I had like a big hole inside of me, and it had to be filled with God's presence and love, and so this tension was very present with two parts of me, but the inner part that was pulled was stronger. It's like I couldn't do anything than just continue to the path, and I was very thirsty of spirituality and know myself differently. So I had this. I felt like I want to go to this love, this spiritual love. And also, when I was 20 years old, I had a project to go in India to meet a sage. It was my vision. I had this feeling that in India, you had wisdom.
Okay.
You had a certain wisdom, and I wanted to
experience
yes.
that. Did it happen? Did you come to India?
Yeah, I was 24.
24. Okay.
Yeah.
How was the experience like, your first visit to India?
The same, double reality.
Right. Because you always felt like that you had some connection with India, Asia.
Yes.
And so did it feel like, did that feel?
Yeah, I felt like immediately when I see poverty, was a little bit shocked, but I feel like a part of me pulls me beyond that. I can felt something different was present in India, and I had to go beyond what I see with my eyes. So I had this, I saw that, and the part of myself said, oh my God, it has changed so much. Like, you know, maybe the last time I was there. And when I arrived here in this campus.
Yeah, in Mount Abu.
In Mount Abu. I felt like very happy. And also a little bit scared because of, how to say that? It's a shock of, it's a very different culture. It seems to me like a connection, and at the same time, I felt so far from that, from all this yogi with this, you know, dedicated life, and I was young, so for me, it seems to me a very high path, and the, you know, the difference between where I am and where I have to go with all these models and Indian way of life that are very different from mine.
Yeah.
That really, I felt like a pressure, and a little bit I was fear not to, you know, to be able to follow that path, you know, and so I was in that both feelings. Yes.
So how did you handle that pressure? Because usually people think that spirituality is something that older people do. People who are above 40, 45, 50. It's spirituality is something for them. But since you came at an age of around 24 to India, and what did you feel? How did you ever had questions that, no, this is not the right time for me? Or was the calling so strong that you just gave in?
No, the calling, I felt my, you know, the relationship with God is such intimacy, you know, it's intimate, that it was here, and I felt I had found something I cannot let go of, because with that, I think I felt, no, my life won't be the same. But through, I passed through different phases. We have a program for women that is called 4 Phases of Women.
4 Phases of Women. Okay.
Of women, yes. The eternal phase, the traditional phase, the modern phase, and the Shakti phase. And what is interesting is it's the same process through life, spiritual life for me. It's like at the beginning you are in a traditional phase. You do like Indians. You know.
Very fascinated about.
Yeah, and you mold yourself in a certain way.
Yeah.
But after you have to pass through a modern phase, and this modern phase is more reactive. But it's a necessary phase to really find your own way of being on a spiritual path.
Yeah, correct.
And that you really need self-confidence, because you start to a new path, or you can say that, but you own with what you are, and in that modern phases, it's lots of energy, but in the same time, what happened is the first phase of my professional life, I did job just to live, but at a certain time, it was my modern phase, I thought to myself, no, I want a complete life, spiritual, but also in my professional job, I want me to be really do something I like. I want to be, useful. So I started to get much involved in jobs that were, like I had new identity.
Which gave you satisfaction.
Yes, but it was in a certain way, because I invested a lot. So I was proud to be in certain job that you have, we say cadre, it's in French. It's it's like manager, kind of.
Yeah, managing.
So it gave me a sense of being.
Right.
But I invested so much that after a while, I realized it exhausted me.
Oh, so were you into meditation then?
Yeah, still.
While doing this job?
Yeah, still.
So why were you investing so much? Did you wanted to prove something?
Yes.
You wanted to prove something.
Exactly, because in Occident, spiritual life is not valued. Like here in India, you have sadhus, you have saints, you have.
Here also, it is not that valued unless you're making a difference and people can see. That
yes, that's And in Occident, it's like your practical life, is the proof. And I think I wanted to prove something that yes, I can have a spiritual life. I can have a job, a good job.
But isn't that possible? Yeah, to have
It's
both?
possible, but the thing is, it comes from a limited desire to prove myself. And for me, it's not really spiritual, because it has to be something like to come inside of you that and don't want to prove anything. And that energy to prove is a little bit forcing.
Yeah.
And what I realized in that modern phases, I didn't respect me. My professional identity became very important. Like for modern women, they are so investigated in work, in action, that they are very also stressed and not that happy. So I had to pass through a third state, that is to be more in balance with myself, and to also to honor and respect this spirituality, to take time to myself, and also to accept to pass through this process.
Yeah. A society, like, we all measure success by how much work we are doing, how much we are earning, and we don't give that much importance to how much happy we are doing all these things.
Yes.
I think the real success is when you are content from within, and when you are very happy in all the situations. You should measure success on that scale as well.
Yes.
So when did that stop? you running after proving yourself and you becoming content and more happy and settled? When did that happen?
It happened a few years ago when I decided to work on my own, not to be involved full time in a job.
Right.
Work has a very important place.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, what are you doing? What is your job?
Yeah.
So it's very strong. And even I was through that spiritual path. I didn't realize that I take inside of me that pressure, to prove myself and to say, yes, I'm happy because I'm very efficient and I can work a lot. And I think I like humility, actually, because I was in a situation where I needed help, but I didn't want to show.
Yeah.
And I accepted things I should not have accepted.
Yeah.
So I had to pass through, this stress to realize something is wrong, Now I moved also since 1 year and a half in the south of France. I changed the place where I am. And I decided to come more closer to spiritual friends and to be, how to say, to take time also for relationship, because it's very important, I came to a point that I said, how are you going to be happy? And to take time to yourself, to have a balanced life, to have authentic exchange and good moments with your friends, spiritual friends, and it made a change. But I had to ask myself, but what do I really need?
Yeah.
What, with my personality, for me, friendship is very important.
Yeah.
I like to meditate with friends, but I like also to have fun, to go for a walk, to go to a restaurant, whatever,
So how to maintain that? How do you maintain that balance? That going to all these places also, and then having a spiritual background as well. Did you find some way to maintain the balance? And what advice do you have for people who are young, when you started? And who have this pressure from their family and from the society to prove something, which is not the right way to prove, to achieve something.
Yeah.
And they have this inclination towards this spiritual thing. So what would you advise them? How should they go about it after all these years of your own experience?
I think what I should say to them is happiness is the biggest treasure you have in life. There's a paradox that it should be easy to be happy,
It should be easy, it is not.
But I realized that, it needs courage. All these heroes in, you see in the films, they have to face many challenges. Because it's like you have a treasure, but to keep it, you need courage to listen to really what you want, what you need. And it takes time to listen to that inner voice. I think it's okay to make mistakes, because sometimes you try and it doesn't work, it's okay. But
then only you grow after making mistakes. When you learn
because you don't know yourself only by meditating. It's a part of the process, but you have to pass through experience to meet people. And that is very rich, actually. So I think to have the capacity to listen to what pulls you, somewhere, and also to take the decision if you see that it's not right for you, to say no. And I think this takes courage, because
to listen to that inner voice.
Yes, because parents have lots of power on children, and they project on you a certain way of,
Correct.
And
all these outward noises become so strong that we tend not to listen to our inner voice and intuition.
Exactly. And when you start doing that, people respect you more, actually. But if they do that choice, I think they will, after a while, people will respect them. For me, for example, when I started my path, I decided to be vegetarian. In France, it's really,
Very hard, yeah.
oh my God. And, my parents, even my sister,
Yeah.
she said, are you ridiculous or what? And now I have so much love from them. They respect me. When I go to their house, they prepare something special for me. Or,
because it takes a lot of courage to follow this.
Yeah.
To take this small thing like being vegetarian in a country where it is not
it is,
that usual.
Yes. But for me, it's like, for example, it was nice because I didn't have to make effort. Why? Because I felt this powerful energy that helped me to change many things in my life.
Yeah.
And also, what I felt is it was more natural for me to be vegetarian. I must have been in past life because I said, oh, this is nice. This is natural, so I don't have to make effort. Right. So for me, it was very interesting.
Something which made you have an effort, like some change that required you to make an effort. Like this was easy, you said.
Yes.
So in lifestyle changes, can you share a thing which was difficult for you to achieve, but you knew that I have to achieve this in order to grow in your spiritual journey?
When I started my therapy, I remember I said to the psychiatrist, I don't want this kind of relationship with men. I want something different.
Deeper,
yes, I wanted to be very close, but not on a physical level. Just this feeling of connectiveness. That was my dream.
So you were not getting that feeling when you were in a relationship. You didn't have this feeling.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I found, but that story, I don't believe it. So what is the paradox is that when I started the spiritual path, I said, wow, well, that's really great. Because we are all like, we have, with spiritual consciousness, you have more spiritual vision, so men and women are just souls and body.
Yeah.
But it takes time to really feel that.
Correct.
And one thing that was interesting, that on one side I say, wow, that's nice, it's my dream, to have that kind of relationship. But on the same time, I passed through many tests because it happens that I fell in love, and I said, what, how can I change that,
But why did you want to change?
I wanted to change because it was a suffering, and I realized that there was emotional need inside of me to connect, to live something.
And you weren't feeling free, were you?
I was, no, because when it was like I had attachment, so you're not free because you think of the person all the time. It's like you meditate, but when you have attachment, the person comes in your meditation, in your thoughts,
right? And
you feel dependent.
Correct.
I felt like, okay, if this person's going to like me, and you start in a process that is
makes
really
you more self-conscious.
Yes, and it's stressing. And but what is interesting is that I had to pass through that.
Yeah, because you just can't leave that person. I mean, you can't just end it because attachment is there. And
no, you cannot say, okay, we don't see,
right.
Because the connection of the soul is here. It's even the person is at 100 or 1,000 kilometers.
Correct.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
Every time I passed that, I was very honest with the yogis that were elder. I came to them. I said, oh, I passed through that. So I had their good wishes. Also, I had good friends, spiritual friends, that really helped me. And I have to say that there is no magic. You have to pass through that. And the more you accept, the more something is liberated. And what I feel now, my relationship changed. Like I feel more this connectiveness without, being in love. Or I think my spiritual life become more and more practice. I feel more, authenticity. It's what I wanted in this kind of relationship. How to be close to somebody, If you are just trapped in the form, you want to please the person, is she going to like me? All this Bollywood. I'm thinking, I love Bollywood, but and Hollywood also. Yeah. But it's not happiness, because what for me gives happiness?
It's all temporary, you mean?
It's temporary, and you don't feel satisfied because it's like you don't feel this closeness that I feel good with this person without doing anything. I feel this proximity. We don't have to speak. Yeah. We can speak, we can laugh, but there is not the barrier of the body. And because the spirituality is more practical, you feel connected at another level. And this
There's no pressure, you mean?
Yes,
no pressure at
no
all.
pressure.
To prove anything.
You feel free because you have this connection, and this is magic. Yeah. But it took time in between theory and practice. Yeah. And now I feel like it's not 100%, but for me, one magic fruit of my spiritual life, it has changed this kind of relationship. And many times I say to myself, I would like all the women to know what I know. This kind of love, of brotherly love,
exists.
And yes. One time, it's funny thing, I facilitate self-esteem, but for my job. And I remember we had an exercise with only women, and I said to them, we are going to have an exercise just to look in the eyes. So I look at them, and one of them, she started to cry, and she said, but my husband has never looked at me like this. It was so funny. She said, when I go back at home, I will ask him to look at me like this. But you can really see the need of this spiritual love, this neediness in all persons. Correct. And that only spirituality can give you. And it's so much, in few seconds, you feel, connected to the person.
Because you're looking at a deeper level. You're looking at the soul, not just the physical body. So it connects to the soul. And
exactly.
Very magical.
And it's like you meet on the basis of qualities, of something eternal. And there's no pressure, there's no, I think it's just magic,
Correct. Yeah.
That, to live with.
Such a lovely conversation. Just to end it, I want to know that the comparison between therapy and meditation. Many people are going to therapies, but they don't prefer to meditate. They prefer to speak to someone and then listen to their views. But my point is, if you're speaking to someone, they'll share from their perspective.
Yes, of course, yes.
So how can both coexist, or some people should meditate instead of going to therapies? What is your point?
My point and my experience, it's both help, but you have to understand that therapy and spirituality won't bring you the same thing. Because therapy, I think the good side of therapy is it helps you to have from a human being a neutral position that can liberate you from culpability, from shame. For example, I give my example. The therapist said to me, "But it's not your fault. It's not, it's your parents did that. But and as a child." When you're a little child, for example, your parents are angry with you, you have fear and you think it's your fault. And for me, that's very helpful to have this neutral point of view. And also, therapy helps you to understand some mechanism. Yeah. But spiritual path, it's another dimension. Yeah. For me, you cannot transform and be liberated without that, because spirituality brings you another point of view, even of your life. You know that anything is a mistake, all has a sense. And this is, it heals you a lot. And the second thing is that, for example, the suffering you have, you can understand that comes from this or that, but some suffering comes from past lives, you don't even know what happened. Yeah. And what can neutralize that suffering is, for me, it's spiritual love. It's this energy that brings you back to your original memories. You don't have to think about, why this, just to connect to another dimension that, okay, now that's finished.
Yeah.
It was the past, and it's spiritually gives you another picture of, okay, that was like this, but now you can connect to another thing inside of you.
Yeah.
And in psychology, you cannot do that because for me, that's the power of God. It's why I'm so in love with God.
Yeah.
It's, it has a capacity to really transform this suffering in just bliss, in love, and this heals you.
Yeah.
And without that connection, it's not possible. So I think it's very complementary.
Yeah. And nothing better than being your own therapist. That's the best thing, if you can be your own therapist.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Because no one knows you better than yourself.
Yeah, yourself. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Well, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us today. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, for me, thank you for listening. And this short meeting was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.